I did my elaboration on the challenges of coaching soccer. My story was about my soccer team. I've been coaching girls youth 12 girls soccer team for 2 years now. The girls on my team have come to know me very well, or I've come to know them very well. When I first started to work with them, there was one of the girls in particular that stuck out to me as a shy, unsocial type of girl. And I knew from the past experience that to play soccer, you needed to be able to communicate with your team on and off the field, and she wasn't doing this very well. So my goal for the season was to help her come out of her shell and be more part of the team. I've given her the nickname Coach. So throughout this, I'll talk about her as Coach. 3 terms. My first section I chose was modeling. The 3 terms I chose for modeling were peer model, which is imperfect but an example for others the same age, race, sex, etc. Expert model, which is flawless and perfect. They are used for mostly learning. They are typically older and more experienced in the area being taught. I considered myself an expert model in this situation. And then behaviorally expressed modeling through actions. Expert models can teach peer models what to do through their behaviors. In this case of Coach, we worked on talking as a team. Every practice we would do drills that would include saying someone's name or some sort of move that the girls would communicate more than and learn different soccer terms. Me, as expert model, would demonstrate how to say someone's name loudly before I passed them the ball. This would show the girls on the team who were Coach's peer models that they needed to do what they needed to do behaviorally. The peer models would then continue to do this behaviorally, and eventually Coach caught on that you needed to say your name loudly or to say that person's name loudly before you passed them. So my first question is, do you think that me showing girls behaviorally what I experienced or I expected them to do helped Coach see that it isn't a bad thing to be more vocal and practice in games? And I said I think it helped Coach understand that it is a safe place and that being loud will only help her get better as a soccer player. My second term was self-efficacy. 3 terms I chose for self-efficacy are belief, which is when you trust that you know something, failure, when you do something wrong, self-efficacy, which is a person's judgment that really and right now you can perform specific actions or behaviors to achieve a goal. Belief in yourself can affect your self-efficacy as well as failing at something. In Coach's case, she wasn't the strongest player on the team, so she felt as though she wasn't good enough to be a leader, so she didn't talk as much. But after her peers started to tell her that she was doing a good job and started encouraging her, she started to believe that she was just as good as they were, and I could see her self-efficacy increase because she started to talk more and more on and off the field. So the question for this is, do you think peers can have a big influence on self-efficacy more so than an expert? And I think it could be either way. In this case, it really showed true that her peers affected the way she felt about herself and her soccer skills, but I would demonstrate this to her and her teammates as well, and that would confirm it to her. So it could be both, but I think that for Coach, it was more her peers boosted her self-efficacy. My third term is memory. The 3 terms I chose from this were working memory, how well one pays attention to nonsense. This is a stage in between sensory memory and long-term memory. Long-term memory, which is what you remember and you learned in the past. And verbal is type of working memory. Working memory helps you retain verbal learning, which can turn into long-term memory. In Coach's case, that what I was telling her verbally and showing her visually was helping her understand what to do. After repeating this step, the information I was telling her turned into long-term memory. Question I asked for this is, do you think having verbal things for Coach was most beneficial, or do you think visual would have been better? The answer is, I think in this case, the verbal are the most beneficial because I was trying to teach her to be more vocal, but what I was teaching her as a whole I think they really were both beneficial. And that's my concept map. Any questions?